Welcome back to One-on-One with Expert Flyer. I'm your host, Lisa Caslin. So the start of the busy holiday travel season is about a month out, let's say, and with the holidays comes unpredictable weather, from blizzards and polar vortexes to your run-of-the-mill ice storms. And when all of these events converge, holiday travel can turn into a time of mourning instead of jubilation. Our guest today is Joseph Lapinto. He's a co-founder of Expert Flyer, and he's also a retired airline pilot. And we're going to talk about some backup plans when it comes to mitigating the inconveniences brought on by flight delays and cancellations this holiday season. So, hey, Joe. How you doing?
Hi, Lisa. How are you? Good to see you again.
Good to have you. Thanks for joining. So before we get started, give us a little bit of background on yourself. You have a very interesting history.
Well, I wanted to start, knew I was going to be an airline pilot when I was as little as 10 years old, and pursued initial flying in general aviation and then corporate aviation, and then spent almost 25 years in the airline world flying for a major airline, and retired as a airline captain. So it's been quite fulfilling, something that I always wanted, and almost 25,000 hours, but
wow.
There's a lot of good professionals out there, and it's a great community.
Yeah, well, good. We're so happy for your wisdom today. So in the event that you get stuck, and it happens a lot, especially here on the East Coast, are there tips to help almost preempt the nuisance of getting stuck at the airport during the holiday season?
Well, I think the biggest byword is planning. We, as pilots, always do a lot of pre-flight planning. And within that pre-flight planning, we always prepare for an alternate plan. So that if one of these events that you're talking about, weather primarily, but sometimes we have mechanicals, we can always pursue the alternate plan. So I think the primary thing is plan as early as you can, and this way you'll see how you're progressing with getting to your destination.
Okay, so in terms of let's say it happens, you're there, you kind of can't really do anything about it. You're at the airport, your flight has been canceled, or it's a delay, and you don't know how long the delay is going to last. Is there anything that folks could do on the fly to maybe beat the masses who are also trying to get out of there, or rejigger their plans?
Sure, certainly there is. I mean, given today's availability of information through the web and on your phone or your iPads or any small computers, there are many apps, many areas that you could log into, one of them being Expert Flyer. That gives you alternative looks at other airlines that may be going to your destination. Some of the ones that you'd also like to consider having at all times is having the airline app that you're flying at the ready. You would also want to look at one called Flight Aware. That's real time, showing where the airplanes are. Also, you can see within that flight app where your airplane is being scheduled to go to or where it's coming from. So it gives you as good a picture of what the alternatives are. You can do many of these things, as we recommend, while you're waiting online at customer service. So this way, you'll have almost as real-time information as the gate agent or the customer service agent has, and therefore you'll be prepared.
What you're suggesting is kind of kill two birds with one stone. Get on the line just to get on the line, but while you're doing that, also access the app. So maybe by the time you get there, you may have gotten an answer through your online endeavors, and then you can kind of confirm it once you get the agent right in front of you. Is that sort of what you're saying?
That's correct. That's correct. And Expert Flyer is very good in showing you what the alternative flights are, and then coupled with Flight Aware and a few of these other apps, as I mentioned, you'll get that big picture. Now, if you have to stay there at the airport, then you have some other apps to look at. Hotels, particularly if you belong to a hotel, you may want to have that app as well. If you're going to go to the to the airport lounges or the airline lounges, now, as you know, many credit cards will give you access to them. There's another app called Lounge Buddy, which will give you some information. So the more information you can have handy to you, and you should be well versed in how to use them. You may want to ask yourself a scenario while you're sitting there waiting to board your airplane, and say, well, what would happen right now if the gate agent said you're not going, or we can't go for some reason?
Right.
Kind of work through the scenarios ahead of time, so that when it does become real, you'll know what you want to do.
And is there any way to kind of beat all the other folks who are also trying to do those things? Because I think, sometimes when throngs of people are put in that situation, everybody's looking for the closest hotel. So is there a smarter way to kind of beat the masses so you at least get a room?
Well, I can give you one little hint. If you see the flight crew walking off the airplane, I think I'd be grabbing for my phone and hotel reservations as quickly as possible, particularly if that flight is the last plane out of the last departure out of the airport. So the problem, I would say just be alert, have a situational awareness, be in the gate area, understanding what's going on. I know we all like to have our pre-departure drink, and that may not be anywhere near the gate area. So that will get you ahead. And watch the weather. If it's the clear and blue skies, then pretty much things are going to run on time. If you've got weather, particularly snow, that causes a whole host of situations. If you are at an international airport, which has a lot of international arrivals, and it's snowing, the international arrivals are always going to get precedence for arrivals over domestic airplanes. So you may have a flight that's supposedly coming in from, let's say, St. Louis, and you're in Kennedy, and although the international arrivals are coming in at the same time and the weather is bad, your flight may not even leave St. Louis.
Oh. Wow. Yeah, that's good to know. So if folks were going, as an example, if I were stuck at the airport, and the first thing I decide I'm going to do is I want to see if there's another flight I can get out on. So I open at my Expert Flyer application, and what do I do next?
Well, you look at your departure airport, particularly if it's the only airport nearby. You may have other airports if you're in a large city. For instance, New York, you've got three major airports there: LaGuardia, Kennedy, and Newark. So you want to widen your net because you may be able to get over to those other airports in a timely manner. If it's a sole airport, let's say Orlando or Pittsburgh, it becomes that much more difficult to look at other alternatives. However, now that's on the departure side, but you may want to look on the arrival side. If you're going into Chicago and Chicago's having problems and you're in Pittsburgh, you may want to go to Milwaukee instead. So try to think in a more global manner as opposed to a more local manner. And that always works. It won't always works, but it becomes helpful to get you more information.
Good advice, good advice. All right, before we let you go, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, watch the flight crews coming and going. If they're walking onto the airplane, it's a pretty good bet you're going to be going. Pre-plan. Try to leave on the first flight of the day, particularly if you have to make connections. It's very difficult to make connections later in the day. Even I suggest to people, sometimes it's nice to have a nice, easy dinner the night before departure. Get up early, go out, and you're on your way. And remember, it's the safest way to travel in the world. You've got great flight crews. They're very professional, and I'm sure you're going to have an enjoyable flight.
Okay, Joe. Thank you so much for your advice, and I hope you have a great holiday.
Great. Thank you, Lisa, and you as well.
Take care.